Previously on Survivor.
So it seems to me that so far we have people, some going for Harrison, some going for Sawhill, and I'm kind of squarely in the middle of that.
Oh, and as far as I know, Fields and Beef and maybe anyone they're talking to think that Harvey has the advantage, so even though I have the secret immunity idol.
Knock wood, if everything goes as planned, this should be easy final three for me, Beef, and Fields. Knock wood again.
14th person voted out, and the 6th member of our jury, Harrison. That is 4. That is enough. And with that, Harrison, the tribe has spoken.
I did not see that coming. I really didn't see that coming. I did not think Fields was gonna betray that vote without telling us first. Because in the past he's changed his vote, but he's at least told us beforehand.
I've been allied with Harrison for the last few weeks, but over the last couple weeks I started to recognize that he was really taking a lot of power and building up a really good resume for himself if he were to make it in front of the jury. The other issue is that I've been on the good side of a lot of votes, and so I was a bit worried there could be a chance later he would come for me. I just didn't know if I could trust him. So I sort of helped to orchestrate getting him out by saving Sawhill, which I hope will work out. And I think it's smart on my part because it's getting rid of another power player in the game.
Thinking about who was left in the game that had the best chance of winning with or without me, I thought he'd probably played the best game out of anyone left. And there weren't going to be that many opportunities to just do a pure cold blindside on him without having to get people on board who I don't think would have gotten on board.
On the other hand, I think a lot of people know that I was one of the people who organized that, so I'm not sure if I put a target on my back because of that. On the other hand, if I am able to make it to the finals, then that's the kind of move that could help me win.
My game's more like about planting seeds than explicitly like saying people, so I just kind of got him to produce that as the natural result of our conversation, and then he talked to who needed to be talked to, and it's a pretty clean vote.
I do feel bad that we were allies and now he's gone and I kind of turned on him, but it's the nature of the game.
I get that. At the end of the day, we were never gonna take Harvey to the final three if we made it that far. So the vote was gonna have to happen, but I was a bit surprised. Though I was very glad that the votes didn't fall on me like I was kind of thinking they were going to. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was.
Bitter and I have had an interesting relationship. We've worked together on some votes. This last vote, I kind of left him in the dark, and I knew that I might alienate him by doing that. But we texted. We made sure that we're on good terms. I think we are. I think we could vote together. I think he'd be a good person to get to the finals with.
I could be, somehow misled, but Fields had texted me after, and saying that he had voted for Harvey. I don't think he was the one who led it, but he was saying he flipped at the last second.
I did come up with some BS at the end of the vote. I said in a group chat to Harrison and Bittner and was like, oh yeah, because you only read 6 of the 7 votes. and it was 4-2. So I was like, oh, actually, like my vote was taken away, so like I didn't have a vote. I guess we all got flipped on, like whoops.
And then Beef also explained his advantage at the challenge and losing his vote, which ultimately didn't matter. So as long as all of that was explained to me the way it actually was, I'd be getting lied to for all I know.
I don't know if they buy that. I think Bittner is more likely to buy it than Harvey, but I'm cool with Bittner. I think Harvey, I don't know. I think he'll respect it as a game move. That's the benefit of getting someone like him out. He gets Survivor, so there's less of a personal connection there, so much as a he did what you got to do kind of thing.
It went down well, despite me getting 2 votes. I know the only 2 people who put my name down were Harvey and Bittner. Well, you know, like I know, like I'm pretty sure.
Basically, it was a very easy conversation last week. It was just like, who do you want to go home? And I said probably Schwartz, and then I think Beef probably said Harrison, and then I think someone else chimed in. I think basically the general consensus was that people wanted to go for Harrison, but then there was also talks with Sahil, and I got asked if I wanted Sahil to go home, and I made sure that didn't happen.
I mean, yeah, Andy's been one of my best allies through the game. Yeah.
By saying guaranteeing Sahil's safety, I think I had to give up a little bit and just agree for Harrison, which regardless was fine for me.
It makes it more difficult, but I'm not overly concerned still at the moment. I don't think Beef is going to screw me over. I think Alec is genuine in wanting to work together. I've talked with Andy quite a bit, and yeah, I think that also could be a potential final 3. I'm not super worried in the next vote, so I think it hurts, but ultimately, if there was anyone I was expecting to betray me, it probably would be Harvey. So again, it was never someone I was considering really taking to the end.
I viewed Harvey as the biggest threat of anyone who I haven't really been working with at all, because I didn't want Fields or Beef to go home. That would have been the worst case scenario, or me, obviously.
Schwartz and I have had an interesting relationship, also someone who I've been allied with for a really long time. That being said, the last couple weeks, I wasn't so sure if I could trust him. I have to assume that the dynamic is going to change with only 6 people now to get us down to 5. And all these people that you think are your allies are going to try to stab you in the back.
Schwartz and Joey had that really interesting alliance where they just kept Joey alive through literally everything. That was insane. Joey, he was definitely doomed because of it. Essentially, Joey just put himself in a terrible position because it's you can't leave him in after a certain amount of just wins like that. You have to take him out. So I don't know. That was cool of him. But bringing that back to Schwartz, being a part of that definitely has put a target on him. And I think a lot of it goes to Joey, but Schwartz being even related to that, Survivor, winning the game at the end is about the story you can tell. And I think that even though it's one small period of the game is enough to where if you do it the right way, you can create a story where you can win the game.
Andy's not someone I would be against having in my final 3. I don't know if people will vote for him. I know I personally probably, if I'm voted out before the finals, I can't imagine voting for Andy just because I'll probably try to vote for someone who put in a little more effort, unless Andy makes a good case and has been doing some behind the scenes work I don't know about.
For him to get to the situation where he is to win the game, he has to make it past his next couple votes, which I don't think is that likely. But if he does, I think he has a very strong chance to win the game, because that means he has to not only do what he did before, but then snake past again, which would be really interesting to see, I guess. He has done enough to where for him to slip past, it would be the real, I think, unique Survivor winner for this season, especially seeing it from a younger guy who wasn't in the earlier seasons. That would be a really good person to because then he'd also be a threat in future seasons. It would be really interesting for him to win. It'd be the new generation, I guess, and an actual good Survivor game, which I would love to see.
He I think a great player in this game has I think flown under the radar, and I think there's always just been bigger priorities. But he's always been seen as a big threat. But the fact he can be seen as a big threat the entire time, and if he makes it to the end, he would be dangerous.
I know that Joey was very aware of the threat that I posed in this game, and Swartz and Joey could have just so easily voted for me. It's still, I think that's my most vulnerable moment of the season, when they decided to get Ray out, because that was just the primest of opportunities to get me out, and I wouldn't have played the idol, and Swartz knew I wasn't playing it. So if they didn't do it then, the only reason I can assume is that Swartz shut down getting me out at that point. And while I think maybe he doesn't realize how strategically bad that move was, I don't know if that's, I want to get him out later in the game, or I actually am trusting him in this game. Either way, like, it's worth seeing that through a little more. And he's a number, I knew we had a number there. I think we probably have his number for another vote or two.
He's been my other closest ally, and I actually do not want to go to the end with him because I think he would win. So I kind of want to keep him around for another round, and then maybe blindside him and vote him out, because I think he's probably the biggest threat in this game to win. And
Swartz is my pledge son. Like, I don't want to vote him out, but if the game dictates.
Even though it's a dick move, I think I'm gonna have to turn on him and see if I can get him out so that he's not there at the end with me, because I don't think I'd beat him.
This is the hardest part of the game for me, not on a game level, but on a personal level, because the beauty of my strategy is that I put myself in a position to feel extremely comfortable at this juncture in the game, but I also put myself in a position where any person I vote out was a pretty substantial connection throughout the game. So like, if that's the only person who I could vote out without it being like a super tight alliance being broken is Sahil. But I've said this before, I think he's played the weakest game out of anyone left in this game. So like, I have no strategic value in getting him out other than the fact that it's an easy vote. The only person I absolutely will not vote out in this game is Fields. I've said that the whole time. I trust him completely.
Beef has been my closest ally throughout the game. I definitely think he has a good shot of getting to the finals, and I'm hoping with me.
He actually at this point probably has played the next best game, so he could be my biggest threat long term, but he's not voting for me. So yeah, that's where we are. Every single vote's going to suck at this point.
That in terms of winning, it's going to be interesting because we've pretty much had the same arc of the game, albeit a couple slight differences, and I'm hoping orchestrating the Harvey vote was one of those. And I think I could also make the argument that I helped keep him in the week that Ray got out. Everyone voted for Joey except for me, and not because I had convinced Joey to vote for Ray instead of voting for Beef. So I'm hoping if that argument can stand up to the jury, maybe that'll separate us. Otherwise, we've done a lot of similar things. He does have an idol, so I think there's definitely a good shot he can win. And I've been happy to work with him.
I think he has the highest chance of winning. We are allies. We've just been talking through it all. But I think he's just been talking to everybody through it all. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
If someone flips on it, then I mean, that's just beyond me, and they'll probably have to do it after the idol, I think, if anyone does it, just because it's either this week or next week, and it's definitely not going to be this week based on conversations I've been hearing. So probably next week, and I can just play it. I don't know. I also kind of like the idea of having a tucked idol at jury, which is not something I want to be thinking about.
Yeah. So because Beef's got the idol, at least from the whole Raveneth, the Raveneth vote as that went down. So yeah, I don't know, something to think about. But like, I don't know, me and Beef are pretty tight, so I don't know if it's an actionable, kind of thing, or if it's just something we have the burden of knowledge of, kind of thing.
Sahil right now is worried about Beef, which is fair. I think Beef and I are in basically like a death agreement to the end. So Sahil has the right to be worried, especially because Beef has the idol.
I think I might have tried to start that talk today, but he's also like my ally, so I being cautious about how I phrase that, because I don't want him, I don't want people going against him, but I do want him to not have the idol.
Ideally, I never play it. I'm not afraid of playing. I think my resume without it should be good enough at the end. So if I feel the need to play it, I'll just play it, and that's fine. But it's it would be a fun bonus if I can get away with it.
So yeah, I think I tried today. I texted Andy, should we be worried about Beef's idol? But that's the only thing that's the only talk of the idol I've heard about, actually, which is somewhat concerning. But I guess like if it's only like a cloud thing past 4, then what are you gonna do?
At this point, I really don't care too much what happens. I just kind of want something interesting to happen, because I know if I like really tried, I could like make it to the end. It would just require doing some stuff that I don't want to do this time around. Like what I would guess for my game would probably be Bittner, or no, it'd probably be Beef, theoretically, or to do like a get the idol out of Beef and then get him next week. But with my chaos theory plan, how I want this season to go, yeah, probably Fields or Shorts. So Shorts would be the easy one, just because like no one really has a strong lines with him at this point. He also is just a huge threat. Fields is more towards the chaos, because then it is a level playing field a little bit more. Like that's a very tight alliance for Beef, and somewhat less so Bittner, even though it is, I think it's his pledge son. I don't know. I think Fields would definitely make it so that Shorts has a better chance and Sahil has a better chance. It basically like it's kind of a free for all, which would be very entertaining. So I may even push that, but like if people were going for Sahil and I turn it on to like Fields, they'd be probably upset that I turned on them this late in the game. But I think they would understand where I'm coming from, and it wouldn't be a big issue, which is really weird.
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm in trouble, but now I think the issue has become more so that I am a good ally with everybody who's left, except for really Bittner.
So in the beginning of the game, I saw Sahil as a huge threat, just because like coming in, there was like not many like older people, and all the older people had like just like I don't know, a lot more survivor experience. I think made us like threats, and then there's just the younger guys who like were in the perfect position to basically take us down and run the game, which they didn't end up doing. And I think at this point it's kind of too late for that. This is probably their last chance this week, and I kind of suspected him, just knowing him outside the game, to be the person to rally the troops and like make a big thing happen. And then it just like every week I'm like, okay, it's time. I gotta keep an eye on him. And then it didn't happen. I thought he was like working like with Ray, and I thought him and Ray had this like weird back end alliance with like other people. I mean, it just like never happened. So I was always skeptical. I always felt like I don't know. I was gonna reach the point where I had to put him down. It's a weird way to put it. Just like when it got too dangerous, but it didn't. So, I mean, I guess it speaks a lot to like his like loyalty, like in and outside the game. And I'm like really happy I didn't have to, because now I'm at the point where like he didn't betray me the whole game. So now I kind of wanted him to be like the third person in like the final 3. I even considered like what would happen like if towards the end I just kind of like did something and like got myself out in a way and like let him just make it, because I don't really care too much about making the final 3. So I don't know. I don't think he'll win the game. I'll add that. I don't think he'll win the game, but I want him to get to a final 3. Basically, I see him as a person who had so much potential in the beginning to just kind of like cause like chaos and like really rally the younger guys and like change the season, and he didn't. Which I guess if other people don't like even consider that, then it'll be completely fine, and he may have some story. It really depends on like how other people interpreted the game. But the way I see the game, I just don't see it, I guess, just because I had so much like hope for him.
The nice thing is I definitely think I have options. At the moment, I'm planning on getting there with Beef and then someone else, maybe whoever doesn't get immunity in the final week leading up to Tribal. That's my hope. I think that something I'll have to consider as the game progresses is if I'm going to turn on Beef, because obviously we're going to have a similar resume, although it's not something I'd like to do right now. And there's certainly no reason to even be thinking about it this early in the game, even if it's not early.
Alec, I don't see him as a big threat to win, but I could see him making it to the finals easily. Or not easily. I could see him, well, easily from here, I guess, because we're so few people. But yeah, I don't think he's a big threat to win.
I think I could work well with Sahil. I would like to keep him around because we're close outside the game, do a lot of homework together. So I think he's just a natural person to work with.
Alec is low-key playing a way better game than people are giving him credit for.
He's flipping at just the right times, and honestly, would have like an underrated resume at the end of the game.
Alec, I definitely want to bring to the end because he's a close ally, so I don't think he's gonna go for me. And I don't know if he necessarily views me as. I don't know if he really has the end game strategy to think like maybe I would have a better case than him at the end.
I don't think he can win, but and given he's largely been seen as the biggest goat in this game, and I'm not sure if that's entirely true anymore.
I think in the beginning of the game, there were so many times where like people wanted to get Binder out, and we chose not to. So I just like I think a lot of chances were granted and a lot of leeway was given, and I don't think he technically deserves to win. But I think given the situation where you put him in the end, like he definitely did a good amount. Like he put a bunch of work in the season, and he would be able to craft the right story to put himself in the right light to win the game.
I think I'd actually love a final three with Beef and Andy, and because I think that's a way of us looking at each other and saying, yeah, let's see who's actually the best at this. If I win, I've beaten the person who's made it to the end 3 times and the person who's made it to the end twice and won once. If Beef wins, he's won twice, and if Andy wins, he's made it to the end 3 times and won once. So we'd all have something to prove, and I think that'd be kind of interesting. I'm not going to betray Beef and Fields, at least not at the moment. I mean, I'm not going to betray Beef, and oh my god, this dog is so cute. Dog getting a shot.
He's been on the outs on a ton of moves, and he said to me, we were on a call the other day, he said something funny about how like every time he feels like he's getting a hold of the game, his closest ally gets voted out. And I'm like, I wonder why that's been happening. He's like, yeah, I look back at like Eisner, Towels, James, like I've taken some shots in this game, and I'm like, dude, like the fact that you even recognize that's been me every single time is mind-blowing. But okay. But because of that, I've just built out this like huge trust network with him, and I also just enjoy playing the game with him. So I really don't want to vote him out, but feel like I may have to do that as well.
Yeah, so I think the goal is to go for Swartz here, and then either team up with Andy, and depending on whether or not he's comfortable going for Sawhill, and I don't know. Either way, I think the goal is just kind of get Swartz this time, and then I think the path to the end is hopefully pretty clear as long as Beef doesn't betray me at the last second.
It is challenge time. Basically, I have bananagrams here. I'm going to randomly pull 15 tiles from the bag, and you essentially have to come up with the longest word out of those 15 letters. There is going to be one period of 30 seconds after I give you the 15th tile for you to figure out what tiles you want to discard and replace. And so at the end of those 30 seconds, you will tell me all the tiles you want to discard and replace, and I will replace them, tell you all those new ones, so you have 15 tiles at the end. And then from there, you have 2 minutes to come up with the longest word that you can out of those 15 letters.
Cool.
All right, and now you have 30 seconds to figure out which ones you would like to replace.
Yeah, 100%. We're getting rid of the 2 U's in the W and 1 of the N's. Just no doubt in my mind. That's just, yeah.
All right, you have T.
I guess I should have got the U in case you give me a Q.
E.
Pretty good trade.
O.
Yeah.
And
I.
E.
Dang it. All right. Deeper. I don't know, I'll give you 6 letters. Whatever.
Nice. All right.
Just reconfirming that I still have the advantage for this. This is the last time I can use it, and if I use it, nobody would know.
That is correct.
All right, then let's use it. Same tiles out in front of me so I can see them in front of me.
Yeah, that's sick. Awesome. So that's basically how it works for everyone else, is they have one chance to discard tiles and replace them, so that you have 15. You will get 3 chances to discard tiles and replace. And time. All right. What letters would you like to discard now?
O, T, G, I.
First letter is a T.
Okay.
Next is M. Then N. And last letter is A.
So I have one more cycle of 30.
Yep. 30 seconds
Okay.
starts now.
N and A. That's it.
All right. Those 2 letters are K and T.
All right, I spelled it right. Yeah, I don't even think it's worth spending the rest of the time. I'll lock it in. Tremendous.
You sure?
Yep.
You positive?
All right, how much time do I have left? I'll take the rest of the time.
30 seconds.
All right.
All right. So, tremendous.
Yep.
Sounds good. I will.
I don't think that'll be enough. I think someone can probably pop an 11 or 12, but we'll see.
I can get rid of as many as I want.
Yep.
Okay.
And 5 seconds.
Let's just go with B and A. Let's just see what I get.
All right. DNA going back and picking out 2 more. You get an A back and an I.
Okay. I have unlevered is my current word, which I learned in my finance class, I assume. That's 9 out of 15. I feel kind of good about that.
Time. So.
Okay, unlevered. Yeah.
Awesome.
UNLEVERED. I am probably at best gonna. I'm not gonna win this challenge. Someone's gonna beat that.
Out of those 15 letters, and then I should think about if there are any that I want to get rid of.
Yes. And you have 30 seconds.
So now I have 2 minutes to make a word.
Yes.
Children. It's 8 letters.
Children?
Yeah.
All right. All right. What are the letters you would like me to replace for you?
The Z, the Y, and the Y.
L.
Okay.
U.
Okay.
And A. What you got for me?
Modulates.
That sounds great. How do you feel?
Feel good. I feel good. That one was a girthy one.
X.
Okay.
2 of the A's.
All right.
And an F.
So your new 4 letters are N, O, P, and E.
Cool. I also have harbor men, if that's a word, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I'll count it.
Really? Okay, cool.
And so, with finding a word that is 10 letters long, Beef wins individual immunity and cannot be voted out this week.
Things are a shit show because Swartz is saying he has an idol. I think it's a bluff. I think it's a bluff. I'd say 90% it's a bluff.
Oh, another reason I wanted to play my idol is just because I think Beef is gonna play his unless he wins. So that would him playing his idol would mean a higher likelihood that people are gonna try to target me. So another reason just for me to play my idol and make it so I can't go home.
Wait, okay, so you got the idol.
Yeah, I solved the puzzle, and I guess I was the first one to do it. So now I have an idol.
Wait, didn't Harrison do it again?
I guess he didn't. I guess I guess he got close, but he didn't get it. I mean, I have it. Like, I'm not lying to you. So I don't know what happened with Harrison.
Okay. I just want to make sure you're not bullshitting me.
No, I'm not. I swear on everything, all things holy, that I have the hidden immunity idol.
Okay.
I heard that too, but then I kept thinking, oh, maybe a second place will get something, and then it turns out I was first place. So I guess Harvey might have gone close, but I don't know what happened.
Okay.
It's been a weird week. I'm sticking to my chaos plan. Basically, what's happening is there's rumors that Schwartz has an idol. You want to get Schwartz out. In a situation where he does have an idol, he would be voting for me. As soon as I get home, we have 6 people. Basically, we have 5 people willing to vote for Schwartz, which is everyone but Schwartz.
I think it's actually pretty easy right now. You tell them that you're on board with that.
Actually,
And
no, I heard from Saul. Last I heard from Saul, he was voting Bittner. Last I heard from Bittner, he said you. And then I've been spoken to Andy.
But to prevent anything from happening, because he's saying he'd put his vote on Andy, so I think we're trying to split the vote now between Bittner and Schwartz. So that would mean putting 3 votes on Schwartz. If he plays his idol, then we have 2 votes on Bittner, who would be out, and then Schwartz's vote on Andy would be nothing.
Do you think it's smart, though, for you to use your idol this week instead of saving it for next week?
I think yes, because if we survive this week, the 3 of us, the 3 of us are the majority at 5. Then we can just pick off Bittner, and then we'll be down to 4, and then Beef is no longer safe unless he wins the challenge, and then we can get Beef.
If you have your idol going into next week, then it's huge, and we can get Bittner this week. From everything I've heard, it's Bittner. From Sawhill, I would do it. I don't know about Andy, but if Sawhill, you and me, and Beef would be on if both of us are on, then we can get Bittner. I don't see why we wouldn't do it and you save your idol.
I just really don't think it's any different. Like, I really think if you, me, and Beef survive this week, or if you and I survive this week, we're not going to go home next week. Because I don't think Beef will turn on either of us. Because he thinks he probably would. He would probably beat us if he took us to the end. So I think he's actually genuinely wants to take us to the end. So I really think just as long as you and I survive this week, we're chilling.
Who's going to be most likely to turn on Schwartz next week, or Bittner next week?
I think...
Like, are we making a mistake by not just voting Bittner out right now?
I think the vote is going towards Schwartz. People were talking about voting Andy today, but I don't want that because I want a final 5 of me, Beef, Fields, Andy, and Sawhill.
We're taking risk just to take risk, because we kind of know that, like, if we wanted to, the safest thing, we could take the safest route at this point in the game, but beat Bittner right now and be the final 3. But because we want a more fun final 3, I'm willing to take a little risk on my own game and not really feel too bad about it.
I'm not really worried about Schwartz's ability to do anything in terms of immunities, idols, things like that. So honestly, I'm not super worried. Maybe I should be. Maybe I'm getting voted out. It's a final 6. Only takes a couple votes to get there, but I'm not super worried this time.
Okay, the safest option right now, obviously, for me, we could all just direct our votes toward Bittner, and I would just obviously not go home. Everyone goes on as usual. But in this game, I want it to be fun, and I want it to be chaotic. I've been saying that for a while. I want Bittner to go a little bit farther, just so I think it would make the game more entertaining. And to do so, I have to put myself at risk, which theoretically is very dumb. I know it's very dumb.
The benefit of having Bittner and Schwartz both in the game is that neither of them want to work with each other.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I trust Schwartz. I mean, if he's doing this whole thing to get Andy, then I think it makes sense. Then I think I trust him. But
The key is making sure he votes Andy. Well, what we could also do is, let's say he's voting for you. Right now, Andy and Sahil are both voting for Bittner. They're definitely doing that.
The plan is the 3-2-1 it. So 3 goes to Schwartz, 2 goes to Bittner, 1 goes to me. If anything goes wrong, it could be Bittner, something else could happen. I don't know. Nothing against Bittner. It's just like, I can only take so much risk.
okay.
So there's 2 votes on Bittner. Bittner is definitely voting for Schwartz, so there's 1 vote on Schwartz. So that leaves 3 other votes. Me, you, and Schwartz.
And we know Schwartz is voting Andy.
We don't know that, though.
You don't think so?
How do we know for sure?
Because his whole point is that he's going to use the idol to get Andy out. Otherwise, he wouldn't use it to get Bittner out.
Well, my point is either he uses the idol and gets Andy out, or he uses the idol and gets you out. So doesn't that mean you almost have to vote for Andy or Sahil to make it a tie?
Oh, in case he's voting for me.
I'll vote for Swartz or some shit. Like, it won't even matter. Because if he's actually playing the idol on himself, there's nothing wrong with me voting for Swartz.
Right. So, you think I should vote for... I think I should vote Andy.
My plan for this whole game, the risks I've been taking are all coming down to this, I think. There was an easy decision to make. I could have easily just voted out Bittner, guaranteed to be safe. But I said from the beginning I want to keep Bittner around just for fun and have a weird game. And I have to take risks because of this vote in case Schwartz has an idol, which I hope he doesn't, but it's possible. So I gotta put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is we think just week to week. Next week, I think Sawhill and Swartz would turn on Bittner, because I think we can also make the argument to both of them is that Bittner is the biggest name left, because I don't think they see me as a huge threat. Though Bittner, even though he hasn't done much, people think that he's done a lot.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, they think Swartz has done a lot, though. They're most worried about Swartz right now.
Right, so keeping Bittner or Swartz in makes sense, because they're both going to want to get at each other.
Exactly. That's the best for our game, for sure.
Okay, fine. So I think it's a good plan.
That all depends on everybody voting. Everybody but the people who know about the Bittner vote. So right now the plan is me and Andy vote for Bittner, and then Swartz, Alec, it's all a mess. We'll just see what happens. It's gonna be a weird one, but we'll get through it.
Well, what I could say is this: Fields would rather vote for Bittner than Swartz. So can one of you vote for Swartz?
Well, let me see what Sawhill.
I'm confident I will get through it at least. My allies, I cannot say the same. 90% sure I can say the same. All right.
So, this is the final 6 Tribal Council. We're going to start off with Beef. First off, congratulations on winning immunity. How do you feel? How's everything going?
It feels pretty good. I got lucky. Got some good letters on my side.
What was your word?
Tremendous.
Oh, wow.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
Yeah, so for you, does winning immunity change how this vote is planned going forward for you?
Not really. Maybe it affected what other people were doing. I guess that's possible if I was the target, but it doesn't really change what I'm doing. No.
Sawhill, how do you feel about the challenge? How do you feel coming into this tribal council?
Felt good about the challenge. As I said, I think I had a girthy word. Unfortunately, that was no bueno. Compared with tremendous, I mean, it's very shaming. So yeah, I feel all right going into this vote. But again, I did get 2 votes last week, so not 100% bueno, but as bueno as we can be.
Yeah, so getting those 2 votes last week, does that make you a little more nervous about people gunning for you right now, or do you feel like the target's kind of off of you right now?
I hope not. I hope it is. But I don't know.
So the last vote was with Harvey going home. Did that change any of the dynamics going into this vote in terms of where the numbers lie and kind of the hierarchy of where the tribe is at right now?
It changed the question of whether or not I would need to betray Harvey this vote. Because inevitably it's always a thought for everybody you're aligned with on every single tribal. But beyond that, I don't think it actually really changed a ton. I think, alliances have been forged throughout the season, and while things shift from vote to vote, I don't think it largely, honestly, changed a lot going to this tribal.
Swartz, same to you.
I mean, I voted for Harvey, so I wanted to see him go the last tribal. But I mean, strategy changes every week just with the numbers going down. You need fewer and fewer people to be on your side, so it gets a little scarier also in that way, but also a little easier.
I think throughout the game, people kind of stuck to their original group. I mean, there's definitely exceptions, but I think for most of this game, it's been a very loyal season, I guess. And like even loyalty that like where it seemed like it flipped, it was because it was to like a alliance that like predated the one where they flipped, I guess.
Yeah, I would say overall the level of loyalty this season, in my opinion, has mirrored levels of loyalty at other seasons. I don't think this is particularly different. I will say this season more than others, I think pretty much every vote has just been like a super clean blindside and like not really like. I think in past seasons you kind of knew when it was your time and then you'd get popped, whereas this season that just like hasn't applied so much. I don't know if that's like from a loyalty thing or just people are thinking long term and have to be aggressive about moves.
I think part of it is in previous seasons, normally we get to the merge and then it's two groups that stay pretty loyal to each other to the end and say like, this is my group. We're only targeting people from the other group. Maybe some people and things get flipped around in the first vote or two after the merge and we see where alliances fall. But then after the dust settles, we normally have two groups. I feel like this time going into the merge and then after the first two votes, we were actually kind of left with maybe 3 or 4 solidly aligned voting blocks. And the question week to week has been which voting blocks are working together this week to knock out someone of whatever voting block they perceive to be the biggest threat. I said our general alliances we formed over the course of the game haven't really changed with like the Harvey vote this last time, but possibly who the vote might end up on this time could very well change based on where those alliances want to work together, because I think we still see some of those lines being drawn.
Yeah, I think Bittner's spot on with that. I'll also add that I think because of that, the last few votes could be like super messy because there's still like fragments of like a lot of different alliances in place. So yeah, like I definitely am glad I won immunity on this one because you never quite know.
Swartz, Bittner brought up the idea of voting blocks and that there have been these solid voting blocks that have basically dictated where the vote's going to go week in, week out. Are there any like very obvious voting blocks that you see right now that could be issues going forward?
I don't know about right now, but I do agree that this game has been actually pretty rigid, that people have for the most part stuck with the same people and the same votes with like a couple exceptions. So I think that probably will maybe continue to some extent, but I actually think that for the most part, like I think I've voted with the same people almost every single time, and the same people have voted against me every single time with only like a couple exceptions. So maybe the trend will be bucked this round, but so far it hasn't been.
Andy, so we are at final 6, and it's really getting down to the nitty gritty part of the game, where you have to go against people that you've given your word to previously. How do you see this part of the game? This is not your first time during this part of the game, so what's your kind of strategy? What are you thinking about going into these last few votes?
I would say for me, so I've my first season was very all over the place. I basically like just backstab people to the end. Second season was very loyal to the end. Last season, when I got voted out like first, my plan was to be very loyal that season too. I think this season I'm still going to go the route of loyalty, like even to the point where it will put me at risk. I want a fun game and I want like an entertaining game, and I've told people that throughout the game. So to make that happen, I gotta stick to my word.
What do you mean by put you at risk for staying loyal?
I think there's times where I could make a vote which would be technically better for my overall chances of winning. But in the beginning, I promised a fun game, and I think that requires me sticking to votes that could potentially vote me out, I guess. We'll see, I guess. But does that make sense? Like, it's taking sacrifices for gameplay, just like fun and loyalty.
Bittner, for you, getting to the end is already a great feat in itself to be the top 3 or 2 of all 20 that started the season. Do you feel a need to make these big moves in order to get a resume together, or do you think that loyalty should also be considered a big factor in the terms of who wins?
Well, I said this last week is, every week you have to look, if you're playing this game and you're playing it intelligently, if we're all being honest, you look at your allies and say, does it make any sense for me to screw one of them over this week? Is it going to add to my resume if I make it to the end? Any smart Survivor player would be asking that every single tribal, but the conclusion I've come to every single time is it makes no sense for me to screw over the people I'm aligned with because it's not going to help me through the next vote. So for me personally, this season, and it hasn't rung true every other season I've played, but this season in particular, I found that, obviously it is a consideration and it would be nice to bolster your resume, but your resume is not going to matter if you don't make it to the end. And if, making that big move is actually going to hurt your chances, there's no reason to make it.
Field, same kind of question to you.
I'm not so sure because I don't know enough about resumes and in the past what resumes have succeeded. So coming at it from a new perspective, I think loyalty is what really matters. But maybe if I knew more about what has succeeded in the past, I might think differently.
It is Final 6. That means that there are 2 more tribal councils that immunity idols can be played. Has that been in conversation recently in terms of who you're voting for and the strategy behind who you're voting for?
Yeah, people have, there's 2, okay, so there's 2 more votes where idols matter. So, we're gonna start to see some idols, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't think they've been that big of a influence on the gameplay. I think it could come up maybe next week, but I don't think there's that much risk, I guess. We'll see. I want to give you more, but I can't.
Yeah, very understandable. If anyone wants to go about and talk about stuff right now, let things out in the open, now is the time to do so.
Schwartz told me something very interesting. The 6 of us are father-son duos. Very interesting.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I did not even wow. Okay.
I didn't think about that either.
I did not think about that.
So who's going to commit fratricide? Let's see.
There's no way this is just a coincidence. I'm sure it played some sort of factor, whether we realized it or not.
Early on, I know there was discussion about who can you trust, and if you have someone like your pledge son or pledge father on your team, it's pretty easy to say, all right, I can probably trust them. Teo, I did lead the charge to vote out Teo, so I'm not sure entirely how true that is, but we do have a special relationship, so I'm just gonna stop talking now. It's whatever happens.
For all the viewers at home, could you just explain the pledge father, pledge son pairs?
Yeah, so Bittner's pledge son is Fields, Andy's pledge son is Sahil, and my pledge son is Swords. And I still think my pledge son's probably going to come for me at some point, so that kind of freaks me out. But
all right, cool. Then with that, it is time to vote. And let's see, who's going to be up first? Swartz, you're up.
There was some confusion right before with some switching, which makes me question, why does it matter when we have a plan who you're voting for specifically? But it's just something to keep my mind on.
I hope the vote is going to Swartz. I hope that's the case and people aren't lying to me. If people are lying to me, I'm probably screwed. So we'll see. Who knows?
This vote sucks. Look, the bright side of this vote is that I know exactly what's about to happen. The sad part of this vote is that I really don't want it to happen, but I know it's the right game move.
I really hope that kid doesn't have an idol. I'm voting for, let me check that. I don't want to be the person who fucks up the vote.
Like at the beginning when he was like, oh, Jeff, congrats on the win. I was going to be like, you should ask Bittner. Like, I thought you were supposed to be good at puzzles. All right, I'll go in.
Yeah, I ask hard questions, but I'm not an asshole.
Sure, Jeff Prost is snarky, though.
Yeah, but that's not even snarky. That's just me.
You did only get 6 letters.
I would have also just said, I couldn't solve the puzzles from earlier this season, so clearly I'm...
Yeah, Bittner, your puzzling has not been there this season, man.
Granted, no one's puzzling has been there because these puzzles have been hard as fuck.
Yorenchi's has. Stay off Yorenchi's name.
All right, if anyone has a hidden immunity idol and would like to play it, now is the time to do so.
I would.
All right, Swartz, you are playing your idol for who?
Me.
All right. So Swartz does have an immunity idol. Any votes cast against Swartz this time will not count. Anything else? All right. And I'll read the votes. First vote. Swartz does not count. Swartz does not count. Swartz does not count. Bittner. Andy. It's 1 vote Bittner, 1 vote Andy, 1 vote left. And the 15th person voted out, and the 8th member of our jury, Andy. That's 2. That is enough. And Andy, with that, the tribe has spoken. All right. So, congrats. You guys made it to Final 5. Awesome job. Seems like there are a lot of shenanigans at play, and a lot more shenanigans will probably happen. But I look forward to it.